Hey there, and welcome to part 2 to video editing. Now, in the first part, we went over a lot of technical details, a lot of the things that you will see, but you don't necessarily need to know. For this next part, this is going to be also fairly conceptual, but this one is important. You need to listen carefully. Editing is a long and tedious process, and you need to think about it. The people who don't think about it are the people who don't edit well. Matter of fact, one of my coworkers was like, "Oh, we'll have Jared edit the video. He's good at it. He'll be faster." And I'm like, "No, I'm good at it. I'll be slower." And that's what ends up happening. Something I also tell my students frequently is you can't cram video. So let's start at the beginning and do a little bit of media theory before we get to Premiere Elements. Now, I know you're like, why do we have to do this? Because most of video editing happens right here. It's all about video design. The tools literally just allow you to take what's in your head and make it come true. And there are tricks that we can do to make our lives a lot easier. Let's start off by understanding the concept of media itself. When it comes to making a video, there are really 4 types of media in the world. And that's it, 4 types. See if I can get to a better marker. There we go. And let's make that black. All right, let's try this. The first one is video. Obviously, if you're going to make a video, you can make video out of video. The second one is audio. Now, yes, I understand that your video might have audio already in it, but in this case, I mean audio that you bring into the project. Video, audio, pictures, and the last one is text. And believe it or not, that's it. That is all of media. Video, audio, pictures, and text. That is media in a nutshell. If you have those 4 elements, you mix them together and you make other projects out of them. Anything else really is interactivity. Let's come over here and do a little bit smaller, see if I can make it a little better. My handwriting is terrible no matter what technology I use. Now, to understand this, we have to ask ourselves, the first question is where does video come from? I know mommy and daddy videos. No, video comes from multiple sources. The first place video comes from is a video camera, right? So in my case, it came from my phone. It could also be digitized from other sources, but the idea that it was shot. The other thing is that there's also video that is what we refer to as born digital. And by that, I mean animations. So in this case, for instance, the video you're watching right now, not me in the corner, or me in the corner, but the video right here, me in the corner. The video you're watching right now, most of this is born inside of the computer. It's really an animation, and it's born digital. When it comes to audio, there are really going to be 3 types of audio that we can play with inside of our project. And I don't mean technically, I mean more about the way that we use audio. The first audio that people know about is music, right? And of course, we are going to be using music in our video, and I'm going to show you where we're going to get good music from, kosher music from. We're going to stay legal. Matter of fact, I have a whole nother video on how to get media assets for your projects legally. And you should watch that video, but that's not this video. The second type of audio we're going to have is sound effects, big, bang, boom. And lastly, the third type of audio we're going to have is narration. And that would be basically the spoken word. If I turn the video off in the corner, again, if I turn that video off, then basically you'd be listening to narration. Pictures can be full screen, which would be basically you'd be having the full screen cover of the picture, or a picture could be like a call out, which would be basically like a graphic or maybe me holding a dollar sign in my hand, some sort of a special effect type picture. And then lastly, we have text. And with text, for the most part, we're dealing with something called titles. Every so often, we're going to talk about things called subtitles. There is a difference between subtitles and captions, and I'll mention this right now. When you watch a movie and there are captions in it, those captions are a separate track that can be turned on and off. It's a data track, and usually what it looks like is someone has typed in everything that there is, and they put time codes to it. And those play on top of the video, and it's something you can turn on and off. There's special software that you can use to create it. It is an enormous amount of work. It's useful if you already have the script. And then, of course, there are people that specialize in it. People talk about automating it. That's YouTube automates it. Turn on a YouTube automated captioning file and see how it does. Matter of fact, turn on this one, see how it does. I'm actually pretty good with it. Actually, it usually does fairly well with me, but every so often it's not the greatest. If you want to be doing sort of subtitles, where it's baked on the video, where it's always on at all times, not something that turns on and off as a separate data track, but it's always there, then you're literally going to be learning how to put one screen of graphics on another screen of graphics on another screen of graphics. And that's different. And we'll be showing you how to use titles and how to wield them as subtitles. But again, subtitles are text that is baked on the video. Captions is a data stream that you can turn on and off, and that's based on the technology that you're using to play it. Matter of fact, most video files do not have a caption stream option. It's a separate file that lives next to it, and it's played differently. Whole different beast, as we'll get to. So video, audio, pictures, and text. There's your media. Now, one thing that we're going to be looking at a little bit differently is the way that video editing programs work. Time to clear the screen. So when we're looking at our media, we are referring to these as our assets. Our assets are all the media files that we have. Separate from that, we are going to have our project file. And this is different than you're used to working with. For instance, if you're dealing with a PowerPoint file, the more images you put into the PowerPoint file, the larger that PowerPoint file becomes. It becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. Matter of fact, if you were to delete the images from your hard drive, your PowerPoint file, which is nice and fat, still has the images in them. That's not how video editing works. And the reason that's not how video editing works is that video editing is kind of a misnomer. We're not actually editing this video. We're not editing this video at all. We're editing this video. We're editing the new video. We're using the old assets to create a new project. And so the video you're editing is a new video. Matter of fact, almost all video editing programs never even touch or alter your original files. They only work with instances or copies of those files. Why this is important is that your project file is going to remain very small. And you need to remember where your assets are at all times, because your project is going to be dependent on these assets, and it's going to look for them. So as you start to organize your life, you want to make sure that you know, A, where are your assets, and B, where is your project file? If you lose either of them, you're screwed. Now, I will tell you that I've been doing this for quite some time, and every so often a student will either lose their project or lose their assets. Usually they're like almost done when this happens. And I always tell people as they're crying on my shoulder, don't worry, because what I'll tell you is that it will take you about 20% of the time to get back about 90% of where you were. Because most of what you were doing was design work. You were designing on the fly. And it's really easy to reproduce that. And matter of fact, if you do this, it's almost always better. My suggestions to all students is when you're about, 3/4 of the way done with your project, delete it and start over. I guarantee you it'll be better. Nah, don't do that. It's a joke, but it is true, by the way. If you were to actually get about 3/4 of the way through your project, scrap and start over, you would take all the positive lessons with you, and all the negative stuff would just be, gone, because it was like growing pains. Now, this brings up a really interesting part about file management. You need to learn to do your file management. You need to take control of it. You also need to know where it's safe to work from and where it's not safe to work from. One of the things that I love telling people about, and I've said this over and over again, is that a thumb drive is a wet paper bag. It's good for moving things from point A to point B. And if you get to point B and the flash drive is blank, you go back to point A and you bring it back over again. But I never want to hear the words, I backed it up to a flash drive, I was working on my flash drive. Flash drives are literally just things that we move things around with. You want to be working on a hard drive. Now, can you work on a portable hard drive? Absolutely. And you can work on a portable hard drive, and if you're going to do that, if you're going to work somewhere else, put all your data on that hard drive. What I really recommend is that if you're going to work on a portable hard drive, you make a folder on that hard drive. And if you want everything to run faster, you copy the folder to the hard drive of the machine you're working on, and when you're done, you copy your folder back. It's just a matter of throughput. The local hard drive is going to be faster than an external hard drive, and that'll make everything work better. Good. It's very important to have these conversations. The other thing is that the software itself will ask to manage your data for you. It'll go, do you want me to copy from your camera? No. You need to copy from your camera. You need to take control of everything that you have. You need to make a folder, and in that folder you want to put your assets, and in that folder you want to put your project, because you don't want to lose it all. And so you need to be smarter than the software that you're using. You need to make sure that when it comes to file management, that you do not use it as a crutch. And that's going to make your life a lot easier. Now, I have a folder filled with assets for us to look at. Now, what's weird about editing video is that editing video is not like editing a Word document. In some ways it is. The thing is you can see the words on the screen. I don't have to memorize to know what I'm looking at. But when I'm just looking at file names, I don't know what's what. And I may not even remember from a moment to moment what I'm looking at. So one of the things that we tend to do is we tend to go through a process referred to as logging your footage, which means that you go through and you watch every single clip that you have. You watch it, you listen to it, you write down some of the technical data, like how long is the clip, what's the name of the clip, and then you write down some of the more aesthetic data. What is it? In addition to the what is it, you may actually put down some of the qualitative data. Is it good? So if I've got 3 hours of footage, I might look at each clip and go, this is what it is, and then I go garbage. This is what it is. Good. Now you're like, oh, if it's garbage, I should delete it. No, because it may only be garbage right now. You may go, oh, that was the best clip. I was the best take I have, and you're going to need it. So it's important to think about that. So I've set up a little spreadsheet here. This is the one thing I will tell you that you can get away with offloading, delegating. You could actually delegate the logging of your footage. If someone understands what you're doing, you could give them a schema, name, media type, duration, what is it? They even can say it looked good, it didn't look good, things like that, where you could get a sense of what you're looking at, and that's very useful for you. And I use an Excel spreadsheet here as an example. Now, we're going to watch these videos, and you're like, oh, we're really going to watch the videos? Yes. You have to. If you think watching your footage once is painful, realize that editing your video is watching it over and over and over again. It is the magic of editing. Now, I also, in a tribute to our last video, went back to find myself an interlaced video. I figured I should show you what an SD interlaced video would look like. And I realized that so much footage of mine is just not of me, or I can't show because it's commercial. And then I found an old file, and by the way, 2009 is a lie. This is, I think, older than that. But let's come over here and take a look at this file, and let me explain to you a little bit more about the last project, about interlacing. Now, we're going to preview all of our video files in the Vlc Media Player. The Vlc Media Player is a free media player that is cross-platform and very powerful. VLC pretty much plays everything, and if it doesn't play it, we can usually detect why it can't play it from the software. So I recommend you download and install the VLC Media Player. I think I recommend that you download and install the VLC Media Player in almost every video that I've shot so far. But let's take a look at this video of me with a ponytail a long time ago. All right. Now I'm going to pause the video real fast. And by default, it looks fine. That's because by default, deinterlace is turned to automatic. But if I turn the deinterlacing off, and if I were to set the always fit to window to zoom to 1:1, now we are actually looking at the video at its native resolution. And what that means is, if I come over here to where it's moving, where it's moving, let's actually zoom back in real fast. Let me fit the window. What you're going to notice here is what I mentioned earlier. The frame of video is made up of two fields. And these fields, the odd fields and the even fields, represent temporal half steps in time. And yet, on an old television, it would go field 1, field 2, field 1, field 1, field 2, field 1, field 2, field 1, field 2, field 1, field 2. So you wouldn't notice it because the clip was made of frames and fields and the display was made of frames and fields. But this is a progressive display. So it shows you both fields at the same time. And because the fields take place in different times, you are seeing at one moment in time, 2 moments in time, hence you see the little shark tooth-like interlacing. The interlacing can be eliminated by doing something called deinterlacing, and if you deinterlace it, it tries to mathematically blend them together. It's all sorts of equations to make that work. That's number one. Number two, if I go to codec information, you'll see it's an AVI file, but it tells me the codec is the DV codec. It tells me the resolution is 720 by 480. It tells me the frame rate is 29.97, but it doesn't tell me whether it's interlaced or or progressive. That's not one of the things that's listed here. So there you go. So some really interesting information there. Also tells me about the audio stream, which tells me it's a stereo audio file. We'll talk more about audio in a different video. And that's really what we need to know. The rest of this is just general stuff. So in this file, which is called Room AVI, it's very funny because you think I'm going to play the guitar, and yet I never get to it. I'm laughing. I just sold most of this. The audio tapes are gone. The Merlin is gone. Like, I sold a lot of this. All right. So, we didn't see how long it was. How long was it? 21 seconds. So we're going to call this Room is a video. It's 0:21, and we're going to call it SD video of my room a long, long time ago. And that's what that is. Now, these other videos we're going to watch real fast and get a sense of what they look like. So let's take a look at 6213. It's 2 minutes and 12 seconds. It's the longest of the videos.
Hey everybody, my name is Jared Bendis, and today I'm here to teach you how to edit video. Is that good? I don't know. Should I do it again? Hey everybody, my name is Jared Bendis, and today I'm here to teach you how to edit video. Is that good? I don't know. Let's do it again. Hey everybody, my name is Jared Bendis, and I'm here to teach you how to edit video.
I was having fun. What do you want from me? That was the phone sliding, by the way.
So, as you can see right here, one of the most important things you need to know is about the giraffe. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope this helped you edit some video. I know it helped me edit some video because I edited this video.
All right, so there was that first clip. Don't worry, the other ones are short. And let's take a look, by the way, at this one. Well, one way we can tell that this isn't interlaced is if I go to deinterlace, off, nothing happens. There, that's one way. And if I go to the codec information, it's going to tell me, even though it's an MOV file, it's a QuickTime movie, it's going to say H.264 MPEG-4. H.264 is the codec behind MPEG-4. It's almost synonymous. It's going to tell me it's 1920 by 1080, and it's going to tell me it's 29.97 frames per second, like I told you before. And it's telling me what type of audio is in the file as well. Better quality audio. So, you get the general gist. Ooh, This is panning in the front of the house. This is me spinning around. This is me zooming to the moon. And this is a grasshopper I found on the side of the house. Because I'm fascinated by critters on the side of my house. All right, so that's what we have there. We also have some images. We have this picture, and that picture, which we'll get back to. We have some music. Now, when it comes to music, we need to be legal, as I mentioned before. And one of the greatest ways of being legal is to go with the music of a man named Kelvin MacLeod, who's the king of internet music. He allows you to use things as long as you just credit him properly. And again, in the other video, we go into details, but here we have 3 different examples of Kelvin MacLeod's music. I recently used this clip, and somebody said it was too modern and they didn't enjoy it, which to each their own. All right, so now I have all the pieces parts, and I have my log file, which I'll go back to later. I'll save it. I have all of my stuff right over here. By the way, I do have another folder in here of some video of me cooking, if you want to see me cook.
Hey there! Talk about dinner. Today's dinner is going to involve a 4-ingredient dish. Just 4 ingredients, and I'm going to make such a really, really good dish.
Not important right now, but just know that's my backup plan for the secondary video. So I have all of my stuff in one folder. And I know where that folder is, and I know where that folder is, and I want to make sure you know where your folder is. So you don't want to have disparate stuff all over the hard drive. You want to make sure that you get your ducks in a row. You don't need to. The software won't make you, but it will come to haunt you if you don't stay organized. And we try to stay as organized as we can by project. There you go. Now that we've done that, now that we've understand our assets and we understand this, now finally we can launch Premiere Elements. And matter of fact, I want to do one last thing before we end this video as we get to Premiere Elements. Now, Premiere Elements is the baby brother to Adobe's Premiere Pro. While Premiere Pro is part of Creative Cloud, which means if you have the whole cloud suite, you've got it, Premiere Elements is not part of that. The good news is it's literally less than $100. It's cross-platform, it's easy to use, and it's got a very, very, very shallow learning curve. I use Premiere Elements, I use Premiere Pro. Premiere Pro, if you learn everything there is to know that I teach you in this video series, it will take me about another 3 hours to teach you Premiere Pro, to teach you how to navigate through its very complex navigational system. And the answer is, why bother? I'm not saying that it's not useful. If you want to learn Premiere Pro, I recommend it. Using Premiere Elements is a pathway to learn Premiere Pro. Can't say that about other software packages. So Premiere Elements is not a waste of your time. It's powerful, it's valuable, and it teaches you what you need to learn along the way. Once you've outgrown Premiere Elements, by all means, you should go on to Premiere Pro. And again, I use both software packages depending on what it is that I'm trying to do. There are a couple things that'll be a little bit weird about Premiere Elements because I think sometimes it's too friendly, and because it's too friendly, it's going to cause some grief at times, but it's worth the trouble and also the price because, again, it's less than $100. It's pretty awesome. So let me come over here and launch Premiere Elements. And now I'm on version 2021, just came out. The reality of it is it doesn't matter. Premiere Elements hasn't changed that much for the past 3 or 4 versions. Now, when I launch Premiere Elements, it's going to bring me up to this overall window, and it's going to ask me whether I want to go into the organizer, the photo editor, or the video editor. Now, the organizer, which I'm not going to launch right now, is really awesome. It's like a miniature version of Adobe Bridge, which is Adobe's file browser, which allows you to preview all your files, play all your files, and tag all your files. Tagging is extremely useful if you're doing a large project. For instance, I mentioned when we did the logging of the video, we can tag a video in multiple ways. We can do it quantitatively. We can say, this is an indoor video, an outdoor video, day, night, things like that. We can do it qualitatively. This is a good video. This is a bad video. I'm going to use the video. The organizer is useful if it's your computer. If it's your computer, it's great. I am teaching this probably because you're going to be using the Freedman Center for Digital Scholarship at Case Western Reserve University, which is a lab. And if you're working in a lab, the organizer is useless because it's really about organizing your computer, and you're not going to be on your computer. You're going to be on somebody else's computer, moving data back and forth. So we skip the organizer. But again, if this becomes part of your personal workflow, organizer rocks. Let's go to the video editor, which really is Premiere Elements. Now, when it launches Premiere Elements, it's going to give you 3 different choices of user interfaces. And it's very, very tempting to look at quick or guided. But quick and guided are both very particularly unique ways of looking at video editing. Expert is what we need to do. And we always use the expert interface. And the reason we use the expert interface is this is what video editing looks like. Whether you're using the top of the line, most expensive video editing, this is what video editing looks like. Now, there are some things that they've done to it to make it a little bit easier. Mostly, they've actually figured out how to cram everything onto one screen. People who do professional video editing have multiple monitors, they have preview windows, they have all sorts of things, but they've managed to do it here on one screen. By the way, that's the nice part about the modern side of digital editing is that we're up to 16 by 9 screens, so it is very useful that I can fit everything at once. All right. The next part of this is where I get a little bit weird about Premiere Elements. It automatically starts you in a project. It doesn't ask you what kind of project it is, doesn't ask you what the settings are, doesn't ask you what it's called. It just is like, all right, let's get started. And that's a mistake. Because you need to ask yourself, what are you making? You're like, I'm making a video. No. What are you making? What is the technical specifications? What are you going to be outputting at the end? Now, generally, what you're outputting at the end is going to match what you're inputting. Remember, we did all that work in VLC and all those things with understanding our clips to know what type of video we have. So instead of going to Save, I'm going to come over to File, New, Project. And again, you would think I already would have had to do this, but no, it opens me up in one. When you do the new project, the first thing it's going to ask you is what's the name of the project, which is my big 2020 demo, and I'm going to browse and I'm going to place it where the other ones are, which of course is on my desktop in my video demo folder. So I'm going to select this folder. Now, again, I want you to realize that Premiere Elements, if I didn't tell it what to do, would have thrown this somewhere deep into my documents folder, and I could have buried and lost this file. And I don't want to. I want to know where this file is, especially because I may not be working on my own computer. So I want to know where this file is. And the best way to keep all of your eggs in one basket is to put all of your eggs in one basket. I already put all the assets in the folder. Now I want to put the Premiere Elements file in the folder as well. And it's going to auto-generate lots of other mini folders, but that's okay. Because if I decide to take it all with me, I just grab that folder, put it on a hard drive. Grab that folder, zip it, throw it up in the cloud. But it's all in one folder. Now look at the project settings. This is a mistake. NTSC, that's right. Full HD, that's right. 1080i, we don't want 1080i. My video isn't interlaced. And this is a throwback to the default that Premiere Elements used to do. Most video at the time was 1080i when this really became popular. And for some reason, it's still the default setting. Change settings. Now, when I go to change settings, it's going to show me, let me go to the subfolders here. Remember, in all computers, the triangle means click me, there's more. We're going to do that a lot. PAL would be the European formats, NTSC would be the American formats, and North American formats, as it were. So as I go through here, you're going to see all sorts of legacy things like an iPod, HDV, hard disk. And if you look over here, you're going to see different sorts of things. DV, which is standard digital video. And it's kind of funny because let's look at this one real fast. Standard definition digital video is 720 by 480, which tells you the pixel aspect ratio isn't 1. Remember I told you they weren't 1:1. They were rectangular, 0.9091. It tells you that it is the fields are lower field first because it's interlaced. If I look at widescreen DV, it's still 720 by 480, but because it's 416 by 9, the pixels are now 1.2. That's just the ratio. Again, not what we're looking at. If I keep looking at all these things, what I'm looking for is 1080p. Oh, look, 1080p. There it is. Now, 1080p, we've got the question. Is it 24 frames per second, 30 frames per second, or 29.97 frames per second? Well, I looked ahead of time. We did that together. So this is the file I want to make. Now, this is not the end of the world. If you want to make good video, you need to know what your ingredients are. So take a look and understand the control of your camera. I can shoot higher than 2K with this camera. I'm not going to, though. That would be not really what I'd be working with this project with. So, 1920 by 1080, like we saw. 29.97 frames, like we saw. Square pixels, like we saw. No fields, which I told you couldn't see, but you know that they're there. And now that I say OK, now if I'm going to click OK, force selected project settings on this project. Oh, that's interesting. I click on OK. And now if you look over here, it says My Big 2020 Demo. This is my project. My project is almost good to go. And that's very, very useful. So this is how you set up a project, which I think is a mistake that people will make when they're first playing with this program. Now, the next thing that we're trying to do is we're going to, I told you that the video files don't live inside of the project, but we still need a link to them. So we do that by coming over here. Oh, and by the way, there are multiple places all over this screen. Let's actually take a look at this real fast because it's very, very weird. The closest thing that you're going to find this like this is the ribbon in the Microsoft programs. See, if you actually look File, Edit, Clip, most of what we're looking at are not going to be under the main menu. It's going to be under these drop-down menus and these buttons that surround it. And that's what they figured out how to do. Over here, we are going to have our preview window, and down here, we're going to have our timeline. The timeline is everything, and we'll get to that in the next video. The preview window is everything as well. Everything else is just ways of getting into it. But again, it's mostly not in the File Edit menu. I'm going to come over here and click Add Media. Now, it's going to ask us how do we want to add the media. And it's going to say, do you want me to control your camera? Do you want me to download from your camera? Do you want me to go to the organizer? And the answer is no. I will tell you where the files are. Files and folders. Click on Files and Folders. And now I could click on each item individually. I could highlight multiple items at the same time. And when I do that, it will put them into my project. It doesn't put them into my project, but it puts them into the library or media bin that my project will be using. But I have a trick that'll actually help us in two ways. I'm going to back out of this folder for a moment, and I'm going to go all the way down to where it says Video Demo. And instead of grabbing into every file individually, I'm going to grab Video Demo, and I'm going to import the entire folder. Now, the reason I'm going to import the entire folder is not just because it's faster, but because if I import the entire folder, it's going to give you a very good example of an error file, an error. And I love to understand errors. We are so used to looking at errors and getting worried about them. But let's look at this error together, because learning to read the errors in this program is going to make your life a lot easier. First things first, look at the window. Add media failure. That sounds pretty scary. Add media failure. Then it lists 3 files. Log, music ideas, my big demo. Error message. This type of file is not supported or the required codec is not installed. Wait a second. What is it saying to me? It says, I don't know how to open your Excel spreadsheet. I don't know how to open your text file. And your project file isn't a video file. Okay. So it gave me an error message. And my response to it is, okay. But if one of these files was my video file or my audio file, and it said it couldn't open it, that means the file was either corrupted or is missing a codec. So being able to look at an error message and really asking ourselves, how do we feel about what it's saying to us? What is it really saying to us is critical, because we're going to go through and deal with multiple error messages in this program. Video editing has problems. You will run into problems when you're editing video, and learning to read error messages, learning to respond to error messages is very useful. So again, how do I feel that I can't import these files? Okay. Now under project assets, you're going to find that I have a folder. And if I click on that folder, it is now going to give me thumbnail views of everything that I have. And not only that, I can double click on them and it'll give me a little playback window. And if I right click on it and I click on properties, it'll even tell me more information about that video as well. Notice, by the way, what it does not tell me, it does not tell me that it is interlaced because the software doesn't know. It's kind of weird that it doesn't know, but it doesn't know. All right. So now that we're set up. And that's where this video is going to end. We have gone through, we've understood the nature of our media. We have watched our media. We have logged our media. We have analyzed our media. We have gotten our media together. We've started our project. We've qualified our project. We've set the settings for our project. We've made sure we knew where everything is. And now we're good to go. And I'm going to close from your elements. I'm going to save my settings. Close this. And if you look, oh my God, there are so many new folders here. Right? It made one teeny little file, which is 20 kilobytes, but now it's got an audio preview, a captured audio, a captured video, a video previews file, an encoded files file, a layouts file, and pretty soon it's going to also have an autosave file. And some of those folders are going to Some of those folders are going to be optional. Some of them are going to be big, some of them are going to be small. We're going to keep them all for now. Anyway, this is part 2. In part 3, you know what we're going to do? We're going to edit some video.